The sun was setting over the sprawling skyline of Chicago, casting long shadows that seemed to reach for secrets hidden in the twilight. John Anderson stood on the balcony of his apartment, the cool evening air brushing against his skin. He gazed out at the city he had worked so hard to build a life in, feeling a sense of pride. A manager in a prominent financial firm, he had put in the hours to ensure a stable life for his wife, Emily, and their two young children. Family was everything to him, and he believed in the sanctity of trust. Until now. It had been weeks since John started to notice the subtle changes. A late night at the office turned into a string of missed dinners. Emily's phone buzzed at odd hours, and her laughter seemed to carry a different tone when she thought he wasn't listening. He brushed it off as paranoia, a symptom of his overworked mind. But now, standing there, he could no longer ignore that nagging voice whispering that something was off. As the sky darkened, John decided to confront his fears. He retrieved Emily's phone from the living room, a bold act of desperation replacing his once steadfast trust. A simple glance at her messages sent his heart racing. There it was, clear as day, a thread of exchanges with someone named Mark, full of playful emojis and flirtatious undertones. His breathing quickened as he scrolled through their conversations. Each message confirmed his worst fears, escalating from harmless banter to declarations of love. Struggling to contain his rage and devastation, John knew he needed proof. Something undeniable. That night, John chose to keep an eye on Emily's movements. Hours passed as he paced the living room, every tick of the clock feeling like an eternity. When he caught sight of her slipping out of the house under the dim hallway light, a cold fury overtook him. She thought he was oblivious, but he was done allowing deceit to reign in his life. Following her, John felt his pulse quickening with each step. He drove with a singular purpose. He was going to expose the betrayal and take back control. Arriving at a swanky hotel downtown, he parked and crept inside, adrenaline surging through him as he ventured toward room 168. Pressing his ear against the door, he could hear Emily's muffled laughter echoing off the walls. A wave of nausea washed over him. A laughter that was never meant for him, for their marriage. Lust, betrayal, and postures of intimacy played in his mind as visions of his wife with another man consumed him. Then, silence. It was now or never. John forced the door open, and what lay before him was a moment he would never erase from his memory. Emily sat on the edge of the bed, a sensual silhouette against the soft glow of the lamp. Her laugh turned to a startled gasp as she turned to see him. But it was Mark, a man John had known only as a colleague, lounging in the corner, heart racing, completely unprepared for the confrontation. A chill ran through the air as John's heart sank and then ignited into flames. "John!" Emily exclaimed, her voice barely above a whisper, but it was too late for apologies. John stood tall, fists clenched, teeth gritted, as he locked eyes with his wife and her lover. "This is just a misunderstanding," she stammered, but it fell on deaf ears. The audacity of her betrayal only fueled his fury. "Misunderstanding?" John spat, surveying the pitiful scene. "You think I would misunderstand the sight of my wife sleeping around? You think I wouldn't recognize the smell of deceit?" The anger surged through him, blinding any remnants of the man who once held love and trust in his heart. Mark, initially struck dumb, finally found some semblance of courage. "Dude, this isn't what it looks like," he attempted, deflecting responsibility with words that tasted bitter and weak. "We were just what?" John cut him off, a surge of disdain burning in his chest. "Casual sex? You really thought this would end well for both of you?" The thrill of confrontation thrummed eagerly, a wicked dance ignited by betrayal. "You'll pay for this, both of you?" John's voice echoed through the pristine walls, the tenor of it chillingly composed for a man on the brink of a transformation. Fueled by the explosive energy in the room, a primal fire erupted within him. It was time to dismantle the false narratives they had woven. Without hesitation, he retrieved his phone, snapping pictures of the evidence before them. A moment of intimate disregard, proof that was now his weapon. "I'll make sure everyone knows what you've both done," he announced coldly. relishing the roles of predator and prey reversing in his mind. In the days that followed, John became a conductor of chaos, orchestrated with the precise notes of retribution. He consulted with lawyers, pulled his financial statements, and carefully began dismantling their shared finances. Imaginary shackles of betrayal crumbled as he recalled the promises they had made to cherish each other, lies that shredded his trust. Within weeks, John had managed to hand over the evidence of infidelity to Emily's colleagues, arranging a public meeting at her workplace to unveil the truth in a grand, humiliating spectacle. The day had come to orchestrate Mark's downfall, to watch as the people he had considered friends turned into spectators to a parade of disgrace. As the office buzzed with anticipation, John strode into the room with purpose, the energy palpable, swirling tumult around him, carrying a promise of deliverance. Emily, unprepared for the storm heading her way, was met with a tide of whispers and judgment as John stood confidently at the front of the room. Gasps of disbelief echoed as he shared every excruciating detail of the affair, forcing her to stand vulnerable, stripped of her facade. Your money, your indulgences, all funded by my hard work to paint your lavish lifestyle. John's voice reverberated, each word meticulously aimed to pierce through guilt and shame. Gasps erupted from the crowd as John's words bore weight, each syllable a dagger directed at Emily's carefully polished image. He relished the mix of shock and disbelief blaring across the room, eyes turning to her, flicking between accusations and pity. Imagine the betrayal not just of me, but of all the friends who trusted you, the colleagues who admired you. You've fed off my devotion while lying in the arms of another man, a man I respected. With every face that shifted towards her, John's heart curled with a satisfaction that bordered on vindictive pleasure. The narrative had flipped. Emily was no longer the poised woman he had married, but a mockery of loyalty, exposed and trembling under the weight of her transgressions. She tried to protest, stammering out vague explanations that couldn't possibly hold against the reality he laid bare. John, please, I was just what? Seeking validation in the arms of someone else because I was working hard for our family? Her pleas echoed around the room, but emotion was stripped bare. There was no pity left for her. John continued, directing the bitter reality of their life at her. While I cared for our 2 kids and worked double shifts to ensure you lived in a beautiful home, you were out betraying everything we built for nothing more than fleeting pleasure. For every whisper that passed through the crowd, John felt lighter, as if shards of betrayal that had weighed him down were shattering into dust. The sustained energy he had harnessed over those intense weeks was propelling him forward, transforming him from a victim into an architect of his destiny. And as he ended his detailed account of the deceit, which included the calculated financial exploitation, he could see her transformation from defiance to despair. Mark thought he could enjoy the spoils of this betrayal without consequences, John declared, his voice lowering slightly to highlight the next part. But I'm sure he didn't expect his own reputation to crumble alongside yours. He turned to face Mark, whose smug demeanor had morphed into a pale shade of fear. I have evidence tying you to her. Let's see how quickly your coworkers reevaluate your position when the whispers in the break room grow into a chorus of derision. Enjoy the views while they last, because this roller coaster is headed straight down. And it was there, in that moment of confrontation, that John became fully aware of his power, a profound realization uprooting the anguish he had nurtured for weeks. The mask of the trusting husband fell away, replaced with a steely resolve. As he stepped down from his makeshift podium, he glanced at Emily, who now found herself alone in her shame. The echoes of laughter and whispers mocked her, spiraling around like vultures awaiting the final fall. With the crowd dispersing, John took a moment to relish the sight of Emily standing vulnerable among her peers. Mark, realizing he had lost everything, attempted to muster some remaining bravado. You're just a bitter man trying to destroy what we had, he yelled, but the air had shifted. The audience was no longer on his side, and those once friendly faces now regarded him with disgust. "What you had," John retorted undeterred. "You had nothing but borrowed time and a woman too cowardly to admit she's ruined her own life. Consider this your wake-up call." With that, he walked out of the building, a zealous energy fueling him, crushing any remnants of doubt that had lingered in his mind. The triumph felt like freedom, the air sweeter as he reclaimed his life from the ashes of betrayal. But it wasn't over yet. John methodically moved through the next phase of his life, restructuring his finances. He engaged an attorney who would help him initiate a divorce, ensuring he received what he rightfully deserved. A careful dossier documented every ounce of Emily's infidelity, every frivolous spending spree funded by their joint account, and John was relentless in pursuing maximum compensation. Every day was a new plan. He meticulously calculated debts and split possessions, marking each triumph down in his journal. He even sold the family car, her favorite, gleefully imagining her reaction upon realization. Along this roller coaster, the industrial sirens of justice fueled him, reminding him of the reclamation of everything he had lost, every moment she had squandered. In court, John sat resolute, carrying the weight of vindication forged in fire. Emily's smiles had turned to despair, her bravado dismantled, to reveal the shell of a woman who had once thrived on deceit. The judge listened intently, the evidence of betrayal laid bare across the desk. John maintained eye contact with Emily, who increasingly shrank in her seat, the judgment of the room heavy like an anchor. One by one, witnesses solidified his claims, sealing Emily's fate and confirming the judgment he had sought. As the gavel fell, John relished the ultimate performance of closure unfold. He was awarded the primary custody of their children and a significant monetary settlement, slicing through the remnants of Emily's dragon energy that had once ensnared him. He had successfully dismantled her life, like peeling layers off an onion, revealing the rot underneath. But as John walked out, steel resolute, Emily's voice broke through the echo of finality. "John, please, let's talk about what we can rebuild. I can change." Her desperation punctured the finality of the day, trying to nestle back into the warmth of familiarity. "No, you're not worth my time anymore," he replied, a mocking smile teasing at his lips. "You had everything and threw it all away. The only thing left for you is the wreckage you've created." With that, he turned his back to Emily, leaving her crumpled on the courthouse steps. The power of his transformation lay not just in her exposure, but in his rebirth, a small act of rebellion against a world that condemned him to mere victimhood. John propelled himself forward into a future brightened by freedom and self-worth. In the end, he had defeated the darkness that sought to drag him under, standing tall as a testament to resilience amidst chaos. There was no turning back. The past would remain a ghost. He was reborn in the ripples of betrayal. John stood before an expanse of possibility, the air around him buzzing with the electricity of newfound freedom. Emerging from those dark weeks of heartbreak had been a brutal rite of passage. But this was a transformation no one could have predicted. The echo of his heart's racing tempo steadily settled into a comforting rhythm as he grasped the reins of his life back firmly. After the tumultuous court proceedings, John felt unshackled from emotional turmoil, and his evenings transformed from sleepless nights into active pursuits of self-discovery. He threw himself into his work, pouring energies into projects that had gathered dust while he had tolerated Emily's betrayal. Each client meeting became more than just professional. They were stepping stones that marked the volumes of resilience he was cultivating. As he immersed himself in the dynamics of the financial world he had once loved. Among colleagues, John started to rebuild relationships, engaging those he had previously neglected. Laughter filled the air in the break room as he and his team brainstormed, and he felt alive. Not as the loyal husband tethered to betrayal, but as a vibrant man reclaiming his worth. Each compliment and exchange created threads of respect, a stark contrast from the shadows Emily's deceit had cast. He began to realize how involved he had been in neglecting his own needs. But the journey toward self-healing was far from linear. There were uncontrollable moments that pricked at old wounds. One afternoon, hurrying through the bustling streets of Chicago, John overheard a familiar laughter drifting from a nearby cafe, a laughter that echoed a time when trust reigned. Torn between shadows of memory and reality, he momentarily halted, heart clenching as images of a happier past flashed before him. Yet, each time these ghosts approached, he fortified his resolve, reminding himself of the lies that cloaked them. It became a mantra. He could move forward, he could move forward. The mental fortitude gradually transformed into tangible goals. John decided to take up running, a physical activity that culminated in a sense of accomplishment. Training over long stretches of the Chicago River introduced him to a community of fellow runners seeking the same solace from life's storms. It became a ritual. The breaths he took, the thud of soles against the pavement, each step resonating with purpose. As days turned into weeks, John found comfort in small victories, even venturing out to explore new interests. Cooking classes, which soon became weekend delights. With no one to impress, he reveled in the simplicity of learning. The chaos of flavors and ingredients became a metaphor for his life, demonstrating how exhilarating it was to mix the unexpected, make mistakes, and create something wonderful from the wreckage. Yet, his greatest transformation happened on an ordinary day. After an exhausting run, John revived in his apartment, sipping on homemade ginger tea when he received an unfamiliar text. It was from Mark. "We need to talk. This situation has escalated beyond control." Anger flared momentarily, then morphed into curiosity. He felt the urge to deny it, to let the chaotic world of his past drift deeper into obscurity. But instead, he engaged. "What do you want?" he replied, unsure of what words might come next. Their meeting, arranged in a nearby bar, felt surreal. The atmosphere was thick with palpable tension. When John walked in, he immediately spotted Mark sitting alone, nursing a drink, his previous confidence gone, replaced by a look of defeat and despair. Why are you here?" John prompted, taking a seat opposite him. The heaviness between them was almost tangible. "Because I can't keep living with the consequences," Mark admitted, his voice low. "I lost my job, and everyone knows. I never expected this to blow up in my face." John leaned back, absorbing this rare moment of vulnerability. "You made your bed, Mark. You thought you could escape unscathed while hurting others. This was never just about Emily." "I realize that now," Mark continued, remorse draping over him like a cloak of shame. "I wanted to say I'm sorry. I know it doesn't change anything, but I truly regret what happened." "Sorry doesn't change the reality you created." "You think it's that simple?" John replied, his tone even. "I lost my family, and you lost what? Your job? You didn't just cross a line, you wiped it away." The discussion contrasted sharply with their previous encounters, wrapped in passion and deception. Now it was stripped bare, raw, and inappropriate, a spectacle of one man's self-destruction and another's reclamation. It felt therapeutic to confront Mark in this way, to give voice to all that had been left unsaid in the whirlwind of betrayal. John observed the way Mark shifted beneath his gaze, a man bereft of the power he had wielded long ago. "You thought you'd find something special with her, didn't you?" John pressed with quiet intensity. "Something worth the risk?" "I was an idiot," Mark conceded. "I thought it was all fun and games. I didn't see the long-term consequences, and now," he trailed off, chest rising as he spoke, "I'm paying for it hard. I've lost everything." John felt a flicker of empathy, realizing how hollow Mark truly was without his once stalwart bravado. But he didn't allow that flicker to shape the narrative. The specter of Emily's betrayal loomed large, a scar that would not simply fade. "You should have considered that before you acted. And Emily? She's lost too, in an entirely different way. You both deserve every ounce of destruction you've brought down." With that, John stood, the conversation rising and falling with each revelation. But he had made his point. A stark reminder that actions bore consequences, and no one could escape unscathed. He did not feel pity for Mark, but satisfaction that his life would now be dictated by the choices he had made. Exiting the bar felt like shedding another layer of old skin, and as he walked back into the evening's embrace, he couldn't shake the awareness of purpose brewing within him. The betrayal that once threatened to eradicate the man he was had now become a catalyst for the man he was destined to become. He would not carry Emily's decisions into his future, not even an instinct or thought. The emotional scars remained, but they no longer dictated his life. Soon after, John faced Emily in a way that was equally confronting and liberating. She begged for one moment, one conversation, pleading for understanding. But he was unmovable. "There's nothing left to salvage, Emily," he said. "You dismantled the life we once had. There's no rebuilding from the wreckage you created." As he walked away, the weight he had carried for so long eased, leaving behind only the echoes of a hard-earned lesson learned. John was emerging into the sunlight, a transformed man with risks to take, corners to explore, and a resolve etched into his spirit. It was a beginning, not just a farewell, and it buzzed through him, breathing vitality into the core of his being. The years went on, casting shadows and light over John's life as he settled into his new identity: a father, a professional, an unyielding seeker of fortune and fulfillment. The journey of healing had bloomed into a path lined with self-advocacy and new connections. His children became his world, and the love he showered upon them reshaped the very fabric of his existence. He reveled in their laughter, guided by the belief that familial bonds were worth every effort he could muster. One evening, while flipping through old family photos, John stumbled upon a snapshot of Emily that struck him with a sudden pang. She had been radiant with joy, her laughter bright, their children blissfully playing in the background. In moments like these, haunted memories would rise, but mostly they had transformed into lessons. He refused to dwell in grief. Rather, he cultivated a resolve that he would never again allow someone else's actions to dictate his happiness. As part of engaging positively in life, John joined a local community group, which focused on empowering single parents through shared experiences, resources, and camaraderie. He found purpose in helping others navigate their challenges, those difficult, lonely journeys of rediscovering oneself post-divorce. During these meetings, he shared his story without the weight of resentment, offering wisdom instead. The stark realities of broken trust became a bond that connected him to those lost souls, each person seeking the light of hope. One noteworthy evening, as spring blossomed into vibrant flowers and lush greenery, an inspirational speaker was invited to one of their sessions. Renowned for her work across social justice movements, Judith Reyes captivated the audience with tales of endurance and empowerment. John found himself hanging on to her every word, feeling the tension inside him electrifying. "We are not just what has been done to us," she boldly declared. "It's what we choose to become afterward that matters." As her message layered over him, John felt personally called to action. What if he could turn his pain into something greater? A mission to advocate for others. The notion ignited a spark. It lit pathways he hadn't yet traversed. That evening, he approached Judith with the raw edges of his truth, sharing his journey openly within the safe confines of their meeting. She listened, nodding along, her thoughtful expressions inviting him deeper into the narrative. "What you've experienced is profound," Judith said with warmth. "But more importantly, it's how you choose to let it shape you." John mulled over her words, a storm of thoughts swirling in his mind. That night planted a seed, one that would take root in ways he couldn't yet imagine. Months rolled into years, infusing John's life with a sense of direction he hadn't anticipated. He began formal training in conflict resolution, uncovering core principles while embracing the nuances of empathizing with others' stories. With experience came expertise. He became an advocate not only for single parents, but for issues surrounding marital abuse and trust violations. He tailored workshops, utilizing his journey to connect. Each participant heard the depths of betrayal and its aftermath, but also the vibrant allure of rediscovery and resilience. In tandem, life at home was a whirlwind of joy. John attended his children's soccer games, cheered from the sidelines, and coached when necessary, forging a bond within the family that made each day special. His mornings were filled with the simple burdens of breakfast making, the frantic hustle to assemble backpacks, and the occasional bickering that painted the canvas of normalcy. One pivotal afternoon, John returned from a particularly compelling parenting group meeting, invigorated with ideas and classes to institute. As he opened the door, he found 10-year-old Max and 8-year-old Sophie sprawled on the living room rug, ribbons of colored paper scattered everywhere. They had transformed the space into a crescendo of creativity, making crafts and giggling uncontrollably. "What's going on here?" John teased, feigning shock at the scene of chaos. Both children looked up, their faces smeared with markers and paint, their smiles irresistible. "Surprise, Dad!" Sophie yelled, jumping up. "Yeah, we're planning something for your birthday." "Yeah, we want to make it special," Max chimed in, passion evident in his eyes. The moment of intimacy wrapped around him like a warm embrace. John's heart swelled. The pure love flooding through him struck a chord. They were the embodiment of hope, the reason why he fought through the tumultuous waves that threatened to drown him. "You know what? It already is special," he said, kneeling down to join them. "You both are the best surprises a dad could ever ask for." As weeks passed and his birthday approached, the anticipation built within their home. John found himself reflecting on the year gone by, savoring its richness. However, beneath that exterior of gratitude lay an unresolved thread. Emily remained an interloper within those cherished confines, her prospects darkening only further as financial struggles turned into a heavy toll. The news of her life choices trickled back to him through mutual friends, each tidbit confirming that the path she had chosen was laden with consequences. As his birthday arrived, John reveled in the warmth of his ambitions and his kids' excitement. Friends gathered, laughter echoed, and there was love everywhere. However, a tugging in his gut emerged when he noticed Emily lurking at the edge of the gathering, lingering like smoke that wouldn't dissipate. Her visage was streaked with uncertainty. Shadows danced under her eyes. "Aren't you going to say hello?" Sophie asked innocently, tugging at John's sleeve. He hesitated, guilt wrestling with his anger, but he knew he needed to resolve this once and for all. Walking over, heart pounding, he absorbed the atmosphere, the joy blurring at the corners of his mind. She looked vulnerable, the frayed edges of her life evident in her disheveled appearance. "John," Emily began, voice shaking, "I know you were all pretending I didn't exist, but I had to come. I can't not see you and the kids." "Why now?" he interrupted. "What are you looking for? Just to relive the chaos you created?" Anguish simmered through him. There was hurt wrapped tightly around the words. "Please, just hear me out." Her eyes glistened with tears. Shame mingled with regret as she continued. "I've made so many mistakes. It's been hard. I've lost everything, including my chance to be a good mother. I need your support. I want to reconnect." The audacity left John speechless for a moment, grappling with her propositions of reconciliation. He had wrestled with these images before. A desire to be whole again had flickered momentarily in the depths of their past, but was far from reality now. "Do you think you can simply apologize and expect everything to shift back into place?" John challenged, incredulity smoldering in his voice. "That ship has sailed, Emily. You buried it with your choices." Taking a breath, John soaked in the ramifications scrawled across her face, the crumpled wreckage of dreams, the crumbling edifice of a past life. "You can't twist my responsibility around anymore. Don't think you can corrupt my present with ghosts of your past. I've learned to thrive without you. And my kids, they will never face this chaos again." He turned on his heel, walking back to his children, who were oblivious to the tempestuous exchange. If anything, John felt resolutely fortified in his convictions. His life was anchored in the bond he had with them, one rooted in shared resilience, not transient hope. as laughter bubbled around him. John took solace in who he had become. The shards of the past were buried now, rendering ground fertile for dreams yet uncharted. Moments like these, pure, unadulterated love, kept him grounded. In that moment, he realized that life was not merely about the happiness we chase or the hearts we've lost. It's about the fierce love we cultivate through trials. And as he joined his children in a burst of laughter, he embodied the promise of tomorrow, his feet firmly planted in a world he had rebuilt episode by episode. He was finally living, not just surviving, and that was his greatest victory. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting warm hues across the evening sky, John listened to his children's laughter echoing through their cozy home. The ambiance was thick with joy, punctuated by the occasional scream of excitement from the backyard, where the festivities were in full swing. Balloons bobbed in the breeze, and a table laden with birthday cake and cookies beckoned, all arranged with love by Max and Sophie, their little hands working diligently to create a day that would warm their father's heart. Yet, in the midst of this joy, the encounter with Emily lingered in his mind like an unwanted shadow, reflecting the painful complexity of their shared history. He and his children resumed their playful banter, but John found his heart conflicted, still processing the confrontation that had unfolded just moments ago. "Hey, Dad! Watch this!" Sophie exclaimed as she sprinted toward him, her tiny legs powering up enthusiasm. She launched herself into a makeshift leap, somersaulting and landing with an exaggerated thump, beaming proudly as she rose. John laughed wholeheartedly, the sound bubbling inside him like water breaking through the surface. The sorrow surrounding Emily dimmed momentarily, transmuted by the delight spreading between him and his kids, illuminating the warmth they shared. Meanwhile, Max, the ever-enthusiastic participant in the celebrations, shouted from the gaming corner, "Let's have a competition. Who can build the tallest card tower?" His eagerness carved a pathway for laughter and playful rivalry. John, feeling buoyed by his children's spirit, dove into the challenge, feeling as if he were seeing the world for the first time, a radiant realm where each moment bristled with possibility. Still, the specter of his past hung like a heavy fog, and thoughts of Emily became a persistent background noise, niggling at his resolve. Was it worth trying to reconnect for the kids' sake, or would it dig up wounds that had begun to heal? John often found himself grappling with these questions, already finding himself patting a familiar anxiety. Yet, despite everything, he held tightly to the truth that he had reclaimed his life. No matter how hard it was, he was determined never to allow her into a space where she could disrupt the harmony he and his children had built. The balance of their new existence felt fragile, but also profoundly real. That evening, as the clock approached twilight and candlelight flickered around them, John made a conscious decision. He would not allow Emily's shadow to creep back. He would focus on building memories, creating bright narratives woven from celebration, laughter, and family bonds. His children would never have to bear any ill effects from the past he shared with their mother. The birthday cake, adorned with swirls of icing and 3 proud candles flickering atop, became a focal point of the night. Max and Sophie gathered around, their eyes shining with excitement. "Make a wish, Dad," they urged in unison, echoing the innocence of childhood that often feels like an unfiltered embrace of wonder. John closed his eyes, letting thoughts swirl through his mind. He wished not for the past or future, nor for reconciliation with Emily, but for the continued strength and stability of the family he had created with Max and Sophie. It was a wish rooted firmly in the now, a testament to how far he had come. As he opened his eyes, he blew out the candles, eliciting a chorus of cheers from his children and friends who had gathered for the celebration. "Now, let's eat," he declared, voice ringing with delight. Watching his children take huge bites of their cake, frosting smearing their smiles, filled him with exuberance. They were pure joy incarnate, each of their giggles wrapping around the bittersweet moments that had preceded this day. That night ended in a flurry of wrapping paper and jubilant voices, but as the last guest left, John felt the soft pull of exhaustion wash over him. Glancing at the remnants of the day, the scattered toys, balloons gracefully sagging, the untouched slices of cake left over, he felt a peaceful satisfaction fill his heart. The bond with his children, now defined entirely on his terms, solidified a resilience he envisioned expanding outward. In the subsequent days, the public humiliation Emily faced lingered in the back of his mind. Their conversation felt incomplete. Despite the hurt she inflicted, John held back the desire to reach out merely out of pity. He never wanted to become vindictive, but also wasn't prepared to be manipulated emotionally again. After a few weeks, he received another text from her. "Can we talk? I need to explain some things, and I can't do it over text." He hesitated, mind-worrying. Was he emotionally equipped to engage with her again? The remnants of pity and compassion, warred with anger and betrayal, deeply embedded in his psyche. It was a clash of survival instincts that left him at a standstill. After days of wavering, John agreed to meet. They arranged a time at a small coffee shop, a neutral space, and more importantly, one free of the shells of their previous life together. When the day arrived, John wore a crisp blue button-down shirt that signified a new chapter, an armor against vulnerability. Entering the cafe, he immediately spotted Emily seated at a corner table, stirring her coffee nervously, eyes downcast. "John," she greeted softly, her voice shaky. It was impossible to ignore the changes in her demeanor. She had lost the vigor and confidence he once knew. Gaunt shadows reflected her struggles. "Why did you want to talk?" John asked, taking a seat opposite her. Adopting a blunt tone, he harbored no illusions of rekindling their past. His heart was firm in its refusal to backtrack. I wanted to apologize, truly. I'm sorry for everything. How I betrayed you, how I hurt the kids, everything." Her eyes glowed with a flicker of sincerity that set John's heart racing again, but he remained cautious. "You say that, but actions have consequences," John responded sharply, feeling disillusioned. "Your life isn't going to return to a happy ending just because you feel remorse now." "I understand that, John. I've been in a dark place. I've lost everything, including my chance to be the mom they deserve. I've been trying to get my life back on track, but I know it's complicated." He studied her with scrutiny. "So, what are you asking of me? Another chance?" "No," she countered, visibly taken aback. "Not that. I just want space to explain myself and hope we can talk about how to effectively co-parent. I know it seems impossible now, but I'm willing to do better. I want to be a good mom this time." Her vulnerability struck a chord within him, but John wrestled against the tide of empathy surging through him. "Words alone won't fix any of this, Emily. You've shattered trust. Building this back will require more than just empty apologies. I'm ready to face the consequences, whatever they are. I'm not asking for sympathy, just..." "Then show me," he interrupted, unwavering. "Prove that you can change through action, not just words." The challenge hung in the air like a dare, inviting a response. For the first time, he could see apprehension flicker in her eyes. It was the reflection of reality faced without pretense. "I will," she replied, determination mingling with fear. "I'll make it right, even if it takes time." With every ounce of apprehension inside him, John understood the complexity of choices forged by time. Love and trust often took time to repair, but watched just as often fall apart. It's a long road ahead, Emily. Don't rush it for appearances. The kids deserve more than grand gestures. They deserve consistency. Understood. I'll work on it, she replied simply, a steely edge weaving through remnants of regret. Exiting the cafe, John felt a swell of ambivalence envelop him. Meeting Emily had not erased the past's weight. However, it sparked a flicker of potential, if not reconciliation, then at least a bridge toward a productive co-parenting strategy that seated the care of their children first. He recognized the need to tread carefully, but he would ensure that ancient scars wouldn't dictate their new reality. As he stepped into the bustle of the city, he felt renewed determination settle over him. He was finally ready to reclaim a future steeped, not in desperation but hope. For the first time in a long while, he could see it. Each step he took was a step closer to that brighter horizon, filled with new beginnings. And as that promise took shape, it resonated fiercely in his heart, filling him with the empowered sense that he could weather any storm that still lay ahead. As the weeks faded into months, the reality of co-parenting with Emily began to settle into John's daily life. The initial meetings held a tension that reminded him of the power struggles he had fought through, but the goal remained laser-focused. Max and Sophie needed stability, and he was determined to provide that. Emily seemed earnest in her efforts. She attended parenting classes, engaged with professionals who offered guidance, and began to forge connections within support groups. John noted the small victories. She started picking the kids up on weekends without incident and making plans that included him, as awkward as they could be at times. Each time he felt a cautious hope bloom, reminding him of the possibility for growth, albeit cautiously. Each interaction was laden with memories, shades of their past stretching between the two of them, sometimes making it difficult to remain purely practical. The nature of their exchanges fluctuated, and John often found himself nearly lost in her eyes, a jumble of emotions swirling within them. He still remained firm, never wavering from the principles he had set in place. "This is about the kids," he would assert, whenever fleeting moments of nostalgia threatened to emerge and cloud his judgment. Every week was a series of adjustments as they navigated their needs as co-parents while simultaneously establishing a new and healthier relationship, at least for the sake of their children. One sunny Saturday, they took the children to a local zoo. The excitement in Max and Sophie was palpable, almost infectious. The anticipation of animal encounters made them giddy, pulling John's attention away from the nuances of Emily's presence and onto the joy emanating from his children. They meandered through exhibits, vibrant flamingos preening themselves, lions lounging lazily in their enclosures, and evidenced cheetahs demonstrating a fluid grace as they ran. "Dad, look at that!" Sophie squealed, inching closer to the glass tank, eyes sparkling with curiosity. Max darted over, pretending to prowl like a lion, and John couldn't help but chuckle at their exuberance. Little moments like this, unfiltered joy rampant, reminded him what he had fought for through the rubble of his past. In the midst of it all, he caught Emily watching him, a soft gaze reflecting both pride and uncertainty. She seemed transformed, occasionally letting go of the need to maintain an air of defensiveness. A lightness settled over her features, illuminating the scenery around them in a way that felt both foreign and familiar. When they reached the petting zoo, vibrant chatter erupted around them as children raced to stroke the friendly goats and rabbits. John knelt beside Sophie, watching her beam as she gingerly touched a furry creature, the warmth iridescent with laughter wrapped around them, binding this moment in time, and it struck John that perhaps they could coexist harmoniously. For the first time in a long while, he felt an inclination to reach toward the vision of the family they had once aspired to be. Toward the end of the day, John wandered off with Max to grab ice cream, while Emily stayed behind with Sophie, who had become entranced by the animals. In the shop, John couldn't resist teasing Max about the number of sprinkles he wanted on his sundae, filling the air with intermittent giggles and scoops of laughter as they discussed flavors and exaggerated voices. When they returned, they found Emily seated on a bench, a rabbit nestled in Sophie's arms. As she looked up, her expression captured the essence of happiness, abundant and radiant in its simplicity. "Sophie's a natural," Emily remarked softly, pride shimmering in her voice as she spoke with sincerity. "Can I hold it?" Max exclaimed, shoving a mouthful of ice cream aside. The scene was bathed in golden sunlight, a picturesque family moment frozen against a backdrop of joy. They took turns passing the rabbit around while laughing at each other's awkward handling techniques. For a brief moment, John allowed himself to fully engage, feeling memories of their former self come alive between them, bittersweet but vivid. Afterward, they took turns capturing snapshots, evidence of their day to immortalize this newfound dynamic. As John snapped photos, he reveled in the genuine smiles exchanged between Emily and their children. The world felt lighter, a blend of laughter and shared experiences stirring within him. Yet, he also felt the weight of caution resting on his shoulders, aware that this momentous day could just as easily be clouded in the uncertainties of expectations and emotional struggles lurking beneath the surface. Days transformed into a routine, punctuated by mutual gatherings. Emily continued demonstrating commitment to her new role as a mother. She involved herself in Max's soccer and Sophie's ballet, asking questions, engaging with their friends, and sharing the triumphs alongside the day's ups and downs. Yet the true test of their co-parenting journey came abruptly one Tuesday evening when John received a phone call from the school. "John, we need you to come to the administration office regarding Sophie." The secretary's voice sounded panicked. Anxiety twisted his stomach as he raced to the school, replaying her daily routine in his mind. When he arrived, he found Emily pacing outside the office, her hands clenched, anxiety radiating from her. It instantly exacerbated his own unease. He approached her, concern etched across his forehead. "What's happened?" he asked, trying to gauge her emotional state. "Sophie. She was in the bathroom during recess, and she saw another child being bullied. We need to make sure she feels safe." "The principal called us to discuss it," Emily explained, her voice trembling slightly. John felt the air grow heavy, but he tried to steady them both. Okay. Let's focus on what she needs and how we can support her." The principal called them inside minutes later, and they found themselves sitting across from a serious-looking woman with spectacles perched on her nose. It felt surreal. They were united not as partners, but as two concerned parents, working toward the best outcome for their daughter in crisis. John and Emily exchanged anxious glances, but understood that they needed to remain calm as they listened to the principal recount the event. After a detailed discussion about preventative measures against bullying, they met with Sophie, who was hunched over in a chair, tiny hands shaking in a way that made John's heart ache. "Sweetheart, are you okay?" he asked gently, kneeling beside her and taking her small fingers into his own. "I saw kids being mean to another girl." Sophie's voice strained under regret. "I didn't do anything, Dad. I was scared." "You didn't do anything wrong," Emily added, kneeling close as well, her tone softening. "It's really brave of you to tell us what happened. Thank you. But now you can help change things. You can speak up next time." John couldn't help but be proud of how Emily deftly navigated the situation, offering reassurance while also empowering their daughter. Together, they formed a plan. John promised that they would advocate for their daughter and support anti-bullying initiatives at school. That night, as they regrouped at home, John made a vow that he would challenge the darkness lingering around their children's lives, fueled by a desire to ensure they faced none of the same struggles he had endured. In the aftermath of Sophie's experience, the dynamics of their co-parenting shifted gradually but significantly. John and Emily found themselves assembling alongside community programs, encouraging the kids to take part in initiatives aimed at fostering kindness and respect towards peers. Each meeting, each project was an opportunity to work together, shifting their focus squarely on the developmental needs of their children. Though the road ahead felt unsteady, John embraced it with a determined spirit. The focus shifted from past grievances to future promises, on their own terms for the sake of the children. Emily's journey into being a responsible and loving mother became an unfolding narrative that began to take shape, representing an opportunity for redemption. As they navigated the intricacies of their new relationship, John often reflected on how resilience shaped his life. He discovered that every experience had brought him here, to a place of negotiation, healing, and ultimately hope. With each decision surrounded by the two most important people in his life, he fully understood that their combined strengths had the power to redefine a potentially fractured family unit into something filled with love, laughter, and ultimately a greater purpose. Through it all shone a bright possibility. While the circumstances of their past were designed to divide them, they had instead begun the delicate dance of collaboration and growth. Each day delivered fresh challenges, but also an opportunity, a chance for their shared vision of parenting to blossom remarkably. And that's what resilience truly means. forging forward together, dedicating themselves to a future that showcased all the colors in between. The path ahead radiated promise, and as John looked forward, he felt woven into a tapestry far stronger than any thread of betrayal could ever sever. As the days turned into weeks, John found himself navigating the complexities of his new relationship with Emily, forever walking the line between guardedness and cautious optimism. Their joint efforts to co-parent and prioritize Max and Sophie held promise, laying a foundation for a healthier family dynamic. Each meeting, each shared experience, reinforced the notion that they could create a positive atmosphere for their children, despite the cloud of their past. However, as they settled into this new rhythm, John couldn't shake the unsettling feeling that lingered just beneath the surface. He found himself peering into the mirror one morning, grappling with a reflection that showed signs of uncertainty. Was he really prepared to fully embrace the path forward, or was he merely stumbling along, following the cadence of change? Emily had grown increasingly involved, volunteering at the school, attending workshops focused on parenting, and stepping up during weekends with delightful plans. But the specter of their history loomed ever closer. John was reminded of the precarious nature of forgiveness. Though she seemed different now, he couldn't easily forget the turmoil she had caused, nor could he erase the years lost to her betrayal. One particularly warm Saturday, they found themselves at the community center, joining a family wellness initiative aimed at supporting healthy lifestyles for children and parents. Emily and John were assigned together to lead an informational booth about nutrition, a topic they were both keen to address. As they prepared their materials, John felt an exhilarating thrill of collaboration, something that had long been absent from their interactions. Did you know strawberries can help boost mood? They're packed with antioxidants, Emily said, enthusiasm weaving her words together as she gathered colorful posters to hang. John marveled at how she quickly slid into the role she once deserted. He felt a shift in himself, a flicker of admiration rising unbidden within him. Yes, and they're great for heart health, he added, launching into facts that felt invigorating as they worked together. The ease between them sparkled. They were two sides of a coin reconciled in a shared objective. Laughter bubbled into the air as they organized playful samples for kids and adults alike. During the event, the responses from fellow parents were stirring. The children bounced around the area, eagerly sampling fruits while John handed them brochures, explaining the benefits packed within their colorful snacks. Emily would occasionally catch his eye, and there was a twinkle of camaraderie that ignited a familiar warmth, the recollection of moments they had once shared. As the sun settled lower, casting a golden hue over the day's efforts, John saw Max and Sophie sprint toward them, faces glowing with energy. "Dad, Mom, look what we made!" Sophie exclaimed, holding a small craft project adorned with colorful drawings of fruits and vegetables. "We made posters to show everyone how to eat healthy." At her proclamation, John's heart soared with pride. Their kids had embraced the day with gusto, reminiscent of earlier joyful moments. Emily exchanged an impressed glance with him, and for the briefest of seconds, John felt the gravity of what they were building. Could they truly mold a supportive family together, despite the chaos they had once caused? That night, when John returned home, he felt a twinge of perspective. The event invigorated him, revealing flashes of what could be if they continued to tread this path. Sitting on the couch, he allowed himself to fantasize about this new reality they were approaching, one that celebrated collaboration while offering their children a sense of their distinct family. Their interactions became more fluid, the transitions more seamless. John and Emily built an arsenal of positivity rather than letting their grievances weigh them down. However, even as success filled their days, John mentally reminded himself to remain vigilant. Trust was not linear. It was a precarious tightrope that required constant recalibration. Weeks passed, and the seasons shifted into autumn, casting its vibrant hues across the city. The air became brisk, and the annual fall fair approached, adding excitement to the community. This year, it felt different. The fair's pumpkin carving contest was conveniently scheduled on a weekend when Emily would have the kids. The idea sparked within John to join in, knowing how much their children adored Halloween festivities. As the day of the fair unfolded, John arrived at the booth with tools and pumpkins in tow, ready to unleash his creativity. Standing beneath the colorful bunting, he watched Max and Sophie dive into the activities with fervor, crafting scarecrows, playing games, and showing off their flickering jack-o'-lanterns. The jubilance radiating from them ignited a flicker of happiness within John, a stark contrast to the heaviness of memories he worked hard to bury. Eventually, when Emily arrived to join them, the energy changed ever so slightly, an electrifying tension, a familiar undercurrent. John felt the tug between the past and where they were standing now. "Ready to carve some pumpkins?" he asked, attempting to keep his tone light and playful. "Absolutely," she replied with a smile. They rolled up their sleeves, working side by side, while their kids rushed off to set up their entries for the jack-o'-lantern competition. The entire atmosphere breathed promise, and John reveled in the back-and-forth banter with Emily as they fought over the most creative designs. Laughter punctuated their conversation as they debated pumpkin sizes. However, amidst the jocular atmosphere, the memories of the scenes they had placed behind them lingered, resurfacing periodically. Just as they settled into a particularly amusing carving debate, he noticed something change in Emily's tone, a slight shift layered in her enthusiasm. "John," she said, glancing up from her pumpkin, "I wanted to thank you for being such a supportive co-parent. It really means a lot." The sincerity in her eyes caught him off guard, but he masked his surprise beneath thoughtful contemplation. "Thank you for stepping up," he replied cautiously. "It hasn't been easy, but I do see you making an effort. That means something." The conversation lingered, weaving between warm recognition and cautious vulnerability. The air felt charged with unspoken tension as the realizations hung overhead, a hopeful acknowledgement that perhaps healing was indeed within reach. Suddenly, Sophie rushed back, dressed in a fairy costume, wielding her equally costumed brother by the hand. "Look at us! We're ready for the competition," she declared victoriously. Max laughed, sporting mismatched wings and a crown, the embodiment of childhood exuberance, and John felt his defenses lower a little further. As they returned to the carving contest, the team spirit enveloped them. The laughter, the cheer, and the anticipation built a new safe haven, one where past resentments could no longer inhibit their present happiness. The day culminated in joyous celebration during the competition, where the kids showcased their jack-o'-lanterns, bursting with energy as John and Emily cheered them on from the sidelines, parents united by love for their children. The glow from the pumpkins flickered in the deepening twilight. For a moment, John allowed himself to breathe. It was exhilarating in its simplicity, its joy. He held on to that delight, aware that within this fragile yet alive bubble, transformation was happening. They were rewriting the narrative, each interaction bridging further gaps until the hope was tangible enough to grasp. But as the night unfolded and they sat back, observing their creations under the shimmering stars, John could not help but remind himself that progress came with careful navigation. Whatever promise this moment held, it required ongoing commitment to repair and rebuild a family unit, one layer at a time, iteratively blossoming like the seasons, taking steps forward while acknowledging the weight of past choices. As darkness enveloped them, John felt empowered, hopeful, and finally at peace with the rhythms of life they were composing together. Each flicker of the flickering candles illuminated the boundless possibilities their family could pursue if they continued this delicate dance of connection, resilience, and respect. There was uncertainty ahead, but for now, they shared a moment built on hope, a testament to the myriad paths healing could offer if approached with intention and love. As autumn unfolded its vibrant tapestry across the city, John found himself embracing the new beginnings, crystallizing around him. The fair had not just marked an event, but a pivotal shift. Max and Sophie thrived in their routines, their spirits buoyed by John and Emily's newfound synergy. Each day felt like a testament to change, a canvassing of possibilities, but the weight of the past still lingered in the corners of John's heart. As winter approached, John concentrated on maintaining this equilibrium they had created. Emily continued to engage constructively as a co-parent, showing an evolving commitment toward being a consistent figure in their children's lives. They had established a rhythm, a complex choreography where each partner moved to avoid stepping on each other's toes. Their mutual dedication illuminated the path forward, yet John remained aware of the fragility of this new balance. One chilly evening, while flipping through their shared calendar, John stumbled upon a note that sparked excitement within him. The annual holiday party hosted by his workplace was approaching. It had been some time since they had both attended such events together, and an impulse surged within him, a hope that they could present a united front, showcasing not just their growth as co-parents, but also as individuals. "Emily, would you like to come to the office holiday party?" he tentatively proposed, testing the waters. "Really? You want me to join?" she replied, surprise mingling with curiosity. "Yeah, I think it's a good opportunity for us to demonstrate to everyone that we're working together. It's also a chance for our kids to see us in a different environment." John kept his tone light, carefully concealing the apprehension simmering beneath the surface at her reaction, unsure if this was another step forward or a potential misstep. Emily's eyes sparkled, a mix of hope and hesitation, creating a unique blend of emotions. "I'd love to," she exclaimed, enthusiasm bubbling up. "I want to show everyone how far we've come." As the date approached, John felt apprehensive, yet eager. The prospect of attending a gathering together stirred nostalgia, reminiscent of when things had been simpler, prior to the cracks that ultimately shattered their marriage. Yet, his heart swelled at the thought of seeing Emily thrive in an environment that spoke to her strengths. From intelligent conversations to the energy of lively gatherings. On the day of the celebration, John dressed in a sharp navy suit, feeling a blend of excitement and anxiety. As he arrived at the venue adorned with sparkling lights and festive decorations, the atmosphere buzzed with laughter, music, and the clinking of glasses. John breathed deeply, hoping that this evening would symbolize their commitment to showing the world the best version of their family, one carved from resilience. Emily arrived moments later, adorned in a stunning burgundy dress that glittered under the lights, exuding a confidence that caught him pleasantly off guard. She looked radiant, her hair elegantly cascading down her shoulders. For the first time in what felt like ages, John felt a surge of admiration wash over him, remnants of the bond they once had taking root amidst the atmosphere. As they mingled, John introduced her to colleagues who welcomed her warmly, their surprised expressions proving uplifting for both of them. "I thought you were going to be a solitary figure tonight," James, a colleague, exclaimed with good humor. Emily laughed, and John noticed the spark between them. "Not tonight," Emily said playfully. "I'm here to show support. We're handling co-parenting together, and it's been great." The sincerity in her voice infused the atmosphere with genuine encouragement, prompting conversations to flow easily. Throughout the evening, the rhythm blossomed, and they found themselves falling comfortably into old patterns of banter. They shared laughter, confiding in one another as they navigated through the thrumming crowd. Each smile, each exchange felt like a delicate dance, weaving a new narrative, a glimpse into something possibly deeper than the solid connection they were cultivating. Yet, even amidst this joy, John felt the shadows of their past flickering like ghosts at the edges of his mind. It was as if he were adeptly walking a thin tightrope, perfectly aware of the fall lurking beneath. And just as he began to embrace the enchanting ambiance, the evening took an unexpected turn. In a quiet corner of the venue, John caught sight of Mark, the man who had once wormed his way into their lives like an odious weed. His presence sent a shiver through John, memories of betrayal rushing back like a tidal wave. Mark was engrossed in laughter with a small crowd, but the moment he noticed John, everything changed. The laughter waned, the words became stilted, and suddenly, the air was thick with shared histories, a connection rooted in pain and betrayal. John, Emily. Mark nodded with a tight-lipped smile, his voice dripping with insincerity. What a surprise to see you here. He feigned an unbothered demeanor, but the tautness in his posture spoke volumes. Good to see you too, Mark, John replied, his tone cool and calculated. Emily remained silent by his side, tension crackling in the air, like static electricity. The juxtaposition of her radiant presence, watered down against the stark confrontation of their past, turned John's thoughts darkly. It seems you're doing quite well, Emily, Mark continued, scanning her frame up and down with an expression that twisted John's gut. I've heard you've been involved with the kids a lot. Good for you. Thank you, Mark, Emily replied, her voice steady, masking any discomfort. As the conversation devolved into shallow pleasantries, John felt a tightening knot in his chest, boiling down to resentment interlaced with protectiveness. He needed to set the boundaries firmly. No renewal of connection, no room for lingering ties that fed nostalgic pain. We're here for the kids, Mark, and I think it's best you keep your distance, John said firmly, his words slicing through the atmosphere like a clean blade. The muscular tension seemed to build. The room felt heavy with the acknowledgement of past treachery. Mark's expression turned darker, resentment crawling across his features. I see some things never change, John. His tone was laced with condescension. Before John had the chance to respond, Emily stepped in. You've no idea what we've built, Mark. You were part of our past, a chapter we've turned. Now it's time for us to focus on our children, the family we will be. The confidence in her voice resonated like music, startling John. It seemed Emily had evolved tremendously. Her words dripped with the authority of someone who had been through the flames of despair and emerged stronger. The tension between the three of them crackled, yet the gaze she shared with John shimmered with the truth. He sensed they could speak unfiltered from the past, moving forward freely while defiantly facing the specters lurking there. And just like that, the conversation shifted as the moment snapped back into focus. They navigated the gathering throughout the night, moving past Mark's influence and sidestepping any lingering complications. John reveled in how Emily engaged fervently with others, illuminating connections that flowed more freely than he had anticipated, feeling the cracks beginning to bridge between them. As the party wound down, John felt lighter than he had in weeks, swelling with a sense of pride. Thank you for that, he said, as they stepped out into the cool night air, adrenaline still buzzing from their encounter. I appreciate you standing your ground. Of course, Emily smiled, her features illuminated by soft streetlights. I've learned that we can't let past shadows dictate our present. I need to be a role model for the kids, and showing them strength is where it starts. As they strolled side by side toward their cars, John felt buoyed as they discussed the evening, exchanging laughter and reflection. For the first time in a long while, the weight of their past skirmishes began to dissipate, nudged out by collaboration and openness. Even during the encounter with Mark, they had converged to create an unyielding front, one rooted in mutual respect and a shared commitment to their family. Soon they arrived at their respective vehicles, and John took a moment to look at Emily, acknowledging how far they had both come. It felt good to see you shine tonight. I'm proud of you. Thank you, John. It feels like we're finally carving a new path, she replied, her voice a soothing balm. As they said their goodbyes, John felt a flicker of hope. The embers of transformation were igniting their spirits, illuminating the realms of possibility ahead. They would continue navigating this path together, grounded in the true essence of what it meant to create a nurturing environment for their children. And as they parted ways, smiling each other off with tentative yet genuine warmth, John couldn't shake the feeling that the hardest moments had passed. A new dawn awaited, one defined not by their mistakes, but by a resolve to rise as resilient co-parents, crafting a future filled with hope, laughter, and the warmth of family love. The weeks following the holiday party deepened the burgeoning sense of unity between John and Emily. As they transitioned into the new year, the dance of co-parenting evolved into a more remarkable partnership. Emily's renewed commitment to their original family values and her tireless dedication to their children opened previously closed avenues, strengthening the foundation they were building together. Each weekend spent together was no longer a chore of forceful politeness. Instead, they began to rediscover the nuances of companionship rooted in mutual respect. Movie nights morphed into shared traditions, popcorn flying as their children giggled uncontrollably. Saturday mornings overflowed with pancakes and laughter, where syrup-smeared faces became a canvas of contentment. On one of these particularly bright winter mornings, after a bravely composed stack of pancakes, John felt a call to encourage them all to embrace the snow. "What do you say we make a massive snowman today? We can put on coats and get creative," he suggested with a grin, watching their eyes light up. "Yes! Can I design its face?" Sophie bubbled, jumping from her chair. "And I want to make it super tall," Max declared, already envisioning visions of winter wonder. "Then let's get going. We need to gather sticks for arms and carrots for noses," John rallied, excitement swirling through the air. Emily looked on, smiling at the familial energy surging around her. As the family bundled up, stepping out into the frosty wonderland, John marveled at the evolving dynamic. Even as they embarked on their snowy venture, Emily joined in on the fun, helping build the snowy giant alongside the kids. The process of rolling huge snowballs, juxtaposed with laughter and playful jibes, resonated within him. "Okay, let's see. This should be the biggest ball for the base," John coached, bending down to mold the snow, his hands expertly maneuvering through the chill. Their children watched intently, eager to imitate him, laughter erupting from the shared effort and mild chaos. As the snowman began to take shape, John turned to Emily. "Hey, remember when we attempted to make snow angels in our early years? We ended up making a huge mess and nearly rolling each other into the neighbor's yard." Emily's eyes twinkled with the shared memory. "Of course. I think we were lucky they didn't call the cops," she joked, her laughter ringing like bells as they continued crafting the snowman. Throughout the afternoon, the atmosphere thrived on warmth and joy, fostering the idea that even despite previous turmoil, they could build new experiences. Memories were evolving into brighter colors, shifting away from the mind-numbing sadness of their past. As the sun lowered and the snow began glittering under the setting light, their creation came alive, standing tall and adorned with a goofy smile, fashioned from pebbles and a virtually lopsided carrot nose. Max stood at the base, flexing his muscles, while Sophie proudly presented her snowman with a scarf. "It looks just like us," she exclaimed, looking at her masterpiece having taken on a life of its own. As they snapped photos, memories flared anew. In that moment, surrounded by laughter, warmth, and a sense of triumph, John felt a profound gratitude for how far they had come. They were not only surviving, they were also living together. But just as comfort emanated within the warm glow of their family, John knew the past lingered like a distant echo. He still felt compelled to mindfully navigate the terrain of their reborn connection while maintaining caution. There was still strength in boundaries, a protective wall built from lessons learned through the shards of their previous experience. The next day, John found himself reaching out to Emily, wanting to have an open conversation. "Hey, I was thinking we ought to discuss how we're approaching the kids' school events this spring," he began. "Oh, definitely. What did you have in mind?" she asked, sincerity threading her tone. He furrowed his brow before continuing, knowing the importance of laying the groundwork for their approach. "With Mother's Day coming up, we should decide how we want to handle it. Last year was a bit tricky, and the kids may have questions. I want us to show them that love doesn't have to diminish just because we've changed." Emily took a moment, nodding. "That's important. I can talk to the kids and remind them it's about celebrating the love we share as a family, not just in the traditional sense." "Yes, exactly. We can come together as a united front." John felt hopeful, recognizing the path they were forging. It's about fostering that bond, to reassure them the love is still strong regardless of the changes we've made. Their connection deepened with this conversation, hinting at what it meant to fully invest in this new arrangement they were crafting. Each dialogue nudged them forward, building toward greater family cohesion, defining how they could rewrite their story without negating their children's perspectives. As Mother's Day approached, they decided to organize a small celebration that included special crafts created by Max and Sophie. They engaged their children, fostering an art project that revolved around expressing the unique love they felt for their mother. It should be a day that represents our gratitude, not our history, John explained, elaborating on his aspirations for the event. On the morning of Mother's Day, John woke early to prepare pancakes, limited by the remnants of snow outside, and quietly set to work while the kids remained asleep. The sweet smell wafted down the hall, filling every crevice of their home with the prospect of love. When Emily entered the kitchen, blinking away sleep, the children erupted, clutching their handmade cards, each beaming with excitement. "Happy Mother's Day!" they shouted in unison, presenting her gifts with enthusiastic flair. "Wow! Thank you, everyone," she replied, a smile beaming across her face. Tears of joy glistened in her eyes as she embraced the heartfelt creations, which amplifying the significance of this day. The morning transformed into shared laughter, pancake decorations, adventurous renditions of songs from the living room, and silly moments celebrated while experimenting with toppings. Each bite was infused with commitment, the commitment to being different, being better. At the culmination of breakfast, each child read aloud the notes they had created, their words spilling forth in a spectacular tribute to Emily's journey as a mother, honoring her resilience in ways that moved John's heart. Love rose around them like the morning sun creeping through the windows, illuminating a path rich in possibility. As they packed up for the park, where a small picnic awaited, John found himself swirling with gratitude for each step they had traveled together. The relationship he shared with Emily, though filled with apprehensions, was evolving into something more positive, giving rise to hope, a future defined by new horizons. The light breeze escorted them to the park, where families gathered to celebrate the warmth of spring. As the day brightened, John watched as Emily engaged effortlessly with their children, connecting with them in a manner that was inspiring. "Mom, catch!" Sophie called out, tossing a brightly colored frisbee. John witnessed her laughter ripple through the air, light and pure, a reflection of the connections they were cementing. John felt a soft pull in his heart, a sign that perhaps healing was possible, even in the twisted mess of their history. At that moment, he understood that every event they navigated together brought them closer to the realization that love could indeed flourish, even amid unparalleled complexities. Through joint effort and shared experiences, they were rebuilding the foundations of the family they had once dreamed about, showing their children that love continued to thrive within the folds of life's challenges. As dusk settled gently over the horizon on that beautiful Mother's Day, John grasped Emily's hand, united in gratitude for the intricate dance of growth they were embarking upon together. With hearts bearing new hope and enriched purpose, John smiled at the families around them, knowing they were no longer merely co-parents, but co-architects of the extraordinary narrative unfolding before them. Together, they were dedicated to discovering the deeper beauty hidden in the layers of every moment shared.